So if I gave you an imaginary pair of scissors, what red tape would you cut first?
Service documentation. You
That's
should be able to walk into a house and see that people are taken care of. You should be able to walk into a house and open the refrigerator and see that yes, meals are being done. You should be able to have a conversation with somebody and smell that their teeth got brushed.
Yes.
Service documentation is time consuming. Mm-hmm. It is kind of pointless. I mean, it's for a compliance officer to come in and look at and go, yep, you've done what you needed to do.
But really, have you?
Right. Just because I mark it doesn't mean anything.
Hey, everybody, this is Tony.
And this is Paul, and we are headed out on the road for the Friends for Life podcast world tour. So let's hop in the car and get going. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Friends for Life podcast. Still out here on the road in Newark, Ohio.
On the road again.
How do you say it again properly?
Newark, yes.
No, the other way.
Oh, Newark.
Newark.
Or Newark also.
Newark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my town. Most people say Swanton, but it's Swanton.
Swanton.
Swantucky.
Swan. You know, most people from Swanton don't like Swantucky.
I love it. But anyway, I digress. We have Meagan here from Newark Resident Homes. Yes. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good.
So, what got you into this field? We'll just start here. Nice, easy question for you. What brought you to the DD field? Because it's not a common place that people end up, as far as I've seen, myself included.
So I had a couple of roommates. I was 18 and working in an assisted living facility. And I had a couple of roommates that actually worked for Newark Resident Homes. And they were just like, hey, I think you would really love this. And so I went, and I did love it. And I stayed for a couple of years. And then I had an opportunity at a local university. So I went and took that and left, and about 3 years went by, and I was like, you know what? This wedding planning isn't awesome. It's not that much fun, and not really fulfilling. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Newark Resident Homes, and that was in 2008 that I came back, and I've been there ever since.
So one of the things that we've noticed is that kind of. This is one of those fields where people will get into it, and they're either like into it for a little bit and they just go, they're like, it's not for me, or people are into it for like the rest of their lives.
Yes.
So what keeps you?
The individuals we support all the way. At this point, I started in this field in 2002 with Newark Resident Homes, was there until 2005, left for that 3 years, and came back. So the people that we support, our agency specifically, have literally been to my wedding. They have, been there through my 2 pregnancies. They cried with me while I was going through a divorce. They are my family. Yeah. So when I talk about most important person in lots of my trainings and when I'm hiring people, I really am talking about the people that we support. Mm-hmm. And that's really why I'm here, because the people we support are my most important person. They have been through huge life events with me, and my family. Mm-hmm. So
it sounds to me like you didn't put in a lot of hours at times.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. When the derecho hit a few years ago, well, it's been more than a few years ago now, clients came home with us and stayed because some of us had power. Some of the staff didn't have power, but clients did. So families moved into clients' homes to ensure 24-hour care. Mm-hmm. We've literally danced at weddings and cried at funerals and spent weeks on end in cabins and flipping over canoes in rivers. And it's a ton of time. It's a lot of heart, but it's the most rewarding job I've ever had. And I've worked a ton of jobs. because I was a bit of a workaholic, so worked multiple. And this and bartending are my favorites.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes after you're done with this, you need a good bartender.
Touche. Yeah, touche.
So you like the people jobs where you talk to people and deal with people, and
I like people jobs that I can make a difference in.
yeah. So is there anything that you would advise to maybe people who are in this field, or maybe looking to get into this field, or even people who are wanting to quit this field? What advice would you give them? Because, I mean, we talk about it every single episode, the DSP shortages, and there's a ton of reasons for that. Mm-hmm. But what advice would you give to people who maybe are on the fence or would like to get in?
To the people that want to get out, I get it. I've been there. I've said many a times I'm walking away. But every time that I want to walk away, it is a system issue. It is never a people issue. The people we support are absolutely worthy of love and care and, and big love, just big love. Mm-hmm. We used to teach, don't get attached to people. And I don't know, maybe like my third training session, and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. Like, how are you supposed to give quality care and not get attached to people? That's not a thing. So anybody looking to get into the field, please come with an open heart, an open mind. You're going to learn so much more about yourself in this field than you will ever learn in any other industry that I'm aware of. I've done retail, food service, and healthcare in multiple settings. And this is definitely the one that's taught me the most about myself.
I think it's funny because just going back, and I know I've said this before, but to any new listeners, that's the reason Friends for Life is named Friends for Life. I was told that early on that I was not my client's friend. Mm-hmm. And one of my things was like, dude, I'm spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week here, and I can't call this person my friend. Right. Like, that is so weird to me that it's going to be the name of my company. Yeah. Because, I mean, it doesn't have to end right now. Mm-hmm. And I think if most people look at those kind of scenarios, if you were to be terminated from Friends for Life or chose to leave, whatever the case, if it's in good standings, that let's say your termination, which we don't have to do a lot of those. Most people walk themselves out. But if it was just because you didn't want to follow protocol, or you just had a problem bickering with your coworkers or something like that, we would put together something that you can still come and see the individual, because it's those connections that we constantly are breaking that puts our individuals in turmoil. Yeah. I just think everybody needs to accept that you can be friends and quote unquote have a working relationship. Absolutely. Because we do it every day. Mm-hmm. But what would you say to somebody who is, I guess, if they're trying to grow in this field and they're stuck in kind of limbo just as a DSP, what kind of advice would you give them to grow and become more of a, leader, or a staple in this field? Like, what have you done?
Well, I think what I've done to get where I am and what is feasible right now may be two different things, because we weren't in a crisis and so short-staffed. Mm-hmm. I was lucky to have leadership that really put all efforts in training and giving tools, and we were able to be pulled out of the sites for that, more intense training for things. And right now we're in a situation where, yes, we're meeting compliance, but we are dotting I's and crossing T's because we just need all hands on deck. Mm-hmm. So take the time. It is worth your personal time, again, even just to learn more about yourself. But you're going to learn so much more about what you're capable of and where you can lead people. To take the time and watch podcasts. You guys have, some really good information if you dive into the meat and potatoes, and I've taken the time to do that since the invitation, which thank you. DODD has some great tools available as well. And I've been lucky enough to have really good mentors who have given me the tools, and I've learned, how to use Google in a way that's going to benefit me most. And right now, as a member of leadership now, I'm just trying to be a sponge and absorbing everything that I can, because I know that I can't take my staff away from the house for 2 or 3 or 4 hours to really give them that deep dive. But if I can pick out the really beneficial pieces of things and spoon feed that, even during a shift when we're working side by side, or a quick staff meeting, or what have you, just taking the initiative to teach yourself, to dive in, to learn. And when people are communicating with you, be it your leadership in your company or your coworkers or the individuals you're supporting, like, lean in, find out what is really being communicated. And in this field, it's really important to pick up on those nonverbal cues, not just of the people that we're supporting, but of one another as well. And again, you're going to learn a lot more when you're listening for those things that aren't being said.
Yeah, that's really, when you brought up a key point of communication, so important, and no matter what you're doing. I mean, that's why, people, essentially, I think what it boils down to in the end is why people end up leaving a lot of jobs overall is just bad communication, not letting people know what's going on, or not expressing what they are thinking, even if good or bad. I think that's why a lot of people end up leaving a career. And I don't manage anything at Friends for Life besides the media side of things. So can't imagine how hard it is to communicate with you're dealing with up to, how many staff do you have, Tony? I mean, you dealing with tons of people, and trying to communicate effectively with tons of people is difficult. Have you found anything that really works well for you to communicate to staff?
So I'm in a bit of a different position because we are a small agency. We're a small nonprofit here. We only have 26 staff people.
That's still a lot of people to communicate to.
But it's a small enough number that I really do have personal relationships with almost everybody that we employ. So, excuse me. So I know what's going on in their personal lives. I know when they might need some additional support. Gotcha. I know if their work performance is suffering, maybe there is outside things going on. Now, there are people who clearly your personalities just don't mesh, or they're just there to do a job and go home, and they don't want a connection with anybody. And that's all fine and good. There's absolutely, a place for that. But honestly, I shoot my staff texts regularly. A quick phone call, log notes, a memo out to communicate something. If I have to talk to 1 or 2 people about something pretty significant and I realize it's a misunderstanding, or they just need some additional information on it, a quick memo out. And that's not the most effective, but it does get the information out. But that one-on-one communication is huge. And just that text or that quick phone call and touching base personally with the people that we employ. And we support our staff as much as we support individuals that we serve. And they very much support us. So.
And look, just from experience, she is very, very, very right. After you switch, it's around your 50th, 50 and up employees, it's just this change that just occurs in the personal relationships, and they do suffer from it. I lost some staff in the past because we did grow to a point that it didn't feel like home to them anymore. It felt as if it was a corporation, and we all know businesses, yes, they have a bottom line, but if you can make it a little more personable, it really helps with not only the individual's way of looking at things, but your staff people. So that's a good thing. I got a question. Yes. I hear you in systems, and you even said it yourself. So if I gave you an imaginary pair of scissors, what red tape would you cut first?
Service documentation. You
That's
should
an
be able to
interesting-
walk into a house and see that people are taken care of. You should be able to walk into a house and they're, open the refrigerator and see that
there's
yes,
food.
meals are being done. You should be able to have a conversation with somebody and smell that their teeth got brushed.
Yes.
Service documentation is time consuming. It is kind of pointless. I mean, it's for a compliance officer to come in and look at and go, yep, you've done what you needed to do.
But really, have you?
Right. Just because I mark it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, I should just be able to walk in and see that these things are being done and ask the people that I'm supporting, are you happy? Do you feel like everything's getting done that you need to be done? So,
if you
service
need to
documentation and
investigate.
EVV.
Oh, yeah. I hate EVV with a
EVV
passion.
is time consuming, it's cumbersome. It's also completely irrelevant to doing what it was supposed to do. It's...
I think we've talked about EVV before and how much I hate it, and I understood the reason.
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense. And for anyone who's listening who's not familiar with EVV, but that's the electronic visit verification. And it basically is a tool that utilizes like a cell phone or some type of digital marking or tracking. So once you go into the individual's home, you quote unquote clock in, and it marks you there in your placement. Now you can do this in Ohio with a company called Sandata, or you can opt for a third-party company. Friends for Life, we opted for a third-party company, and it still sucks. So it becomes more time-consuming for our administrative staff, who already feel like they're losing out left and right. Everybody knows one of the biggest conversations, if you've been in this field, is that we're too top heavy. Yes. So administrative jobs are kind of on the first ones on the chopping block, and, their responsibilities are either going up and their pay going down, or their whole entire position is just eliminated. But yeah, I feel very passionate about it. I don't even, what would we do? And I mean, like you said, I do believe just coming in and seeing things will be able to help. But to play devil's advocate of it, how much of that can really be faked? Do you have an idea in your mind on, do we add more remote supports? Like, if an individual says, hey, here's a camera, check inside once a week to see if these things are happening. Do we go that route? If you had to stand up on a soapbox to fight for EVV, what would your strategy be for a replacement?
For a replacement for EVV?
Yes. I mean, even if we were to totally eliminate it, because we have to have our checks and balances. The state's going to tell us that. But what would you do differently?
Wow, you're really challenging me on that. I have no clue what I would do differently than EVV. We functioned for
many years without
forever until without it. And clearly there were issues, or else we wouldn't have EVV, right? So I think it probably started with the best of intentions in mind, but all of that can be altered remotely too. So what is it really tracking? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that.
That's actually what I was shooting for.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to say we don't know the answer.
I
think that's what the federal government didn't do. They wanted to say, "Oh, we got the answer," and it turned out to be crap. Personally, that's what I feel.
Well, no, and there were a ton of third-party suppliers because, let's face it, Sandata is awful. So there were a lot of third-party suppliers that were building an app while they were selling it. And I don't know a single provider that's happy with their third-party provider. I also don't know a single provider that's happy with Sandata. And it's just not accomplishing what they wanted it to accomplish. And that's not, and I understand that's not our department situation. It's a CMS thing, but we're piling on these expectations, and these systems go down constantly.
Yeah.
So now I have to fight with a telephone or laptop or whatever for 15 minutes of my shift, and God forbid you're an overnight shift.
Oh, yeah.
You clock in at 10, you clock out at 11, clock back in at 11, back out at 7. And then it's the most cumbersome ridiculousness. And who's taking care of our clients then? Who is paying attention to the individuals?
Ooh, goodness, you got me going down a rabbit hole with it. And then because unless you're a company that you're paying for all of your staff to have these particular devices, now they're using their personal equipment to pay, to document what they're documenting. And do
you have a right to do that? Do you have a right to say your location has to be on because it's GPS tracked, right? That's the whole point of it. And we don't pay for it, but you have to use your personal device to log in and out.
Like how I don't even know how we make sense of some of these things anymore.
No, and we ran into that issue, and I was the first one that said, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so my location is not on my phone. My location will not be on my phone. So you're going to have to provide me a device to do this. So we put devices in all of our sites. And then for our drop-in sites, every staff signs out a device and takes it with them.
Well, privacy is a huge issue nowadays. I mean, that's not a conspiracy. Like that data gets used for marketing and stuff, and who God only knows what else is being used. So I don't think you have to be in any really conspiracy theory mind to do that. I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, I don't care what they say that they're not doing it. When you freaking look at your phone and you like have a conversation right now, like I'm gonna say like what's something I would never buy, like
bow ties.
Bow ties. Yes. I want to get some bow tie. I guarantee you within like 5 hours there's gonna be a bow tie advertisement on. I'm gonna screenshot it if that happens because
we gotta throw it up.
Yeah,
because like
all of our phones, let's check them all out.
And I think that line is going with a lot of employment for across the field now. Is like where does it start and stop? What you can tell me to use on my own time and versus work time, because that you start getting into some weird stuff, and I understand what you're saying now. Like that's a line like someday it'll come to a head, but it's like this is my phone. I pay for it. Like how can you tell me what I can and have to do with it exactly? So that's a weird rabbit hole. But we kind of got into some heavy stuff right off the gate. Newark Resident Homes. What do you guys do? What's your mission? What's your goals that you set out?
So our mission is really to focus on abilities of people that happen to have disabilities in Licking County. Okay. We only serve Licking County. We don't venture out of Licking County. We are homegrown and want to affect change in this county, in our most local community. And we really are looking at what you can do versus what you can't do. I'm never, ever going to say, I do this at home for the record, but not at work. I'm never going to say, no, don't load the dishwasher because you don't do it right. Go ahead. Yeah, let's do that. And however you need to load it, if we can grow on it and expand, cool. If not, load it. We'll run it twice. Yeah. We'll run it 3 times if we have to. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But, and I mean, that's just a silly example, but I really do want to focus on what people can do, and both my staff and the people that we support, because it gives you warm and fuzzies, right? Yeah. When somebody's like, hey, you did a really good job. And that's what I want to do with other people. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not an iron fist kind of person a lot of times, and can get quite protective and snippy and mean, but with my staff. But we have an understanding, and it takes a lot to get me there, and generally that comes with a very specific conversation of these are people's lives. We deal with people, not products. Mm-hmm. Nobody else comes in here and turns the conveyor belt on or off. One little thing can have this ripple effect that really turns into something big. Yeah. And I care. If you don't, fine, which is not normally the case, but I care, and that's what matters.
Yes. I'm still intrigued about this, about all the red tape. So I have another one.
Yeah, please.
You know, it'd be because you're right up there in the same boat. I think when we have to deal with as much as we've had to deal with. So high school diplomas.
Stupid. Ridiculous.
Yes.
It's the dumbest thing. Yeah, if you need to pass meds, cool. I understand. That's the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
No. How many of our grandparents, right, just due to the decade that they grew up in, did not have a high school diploma.
Or a driver's license.
But could run circles around us and run multiple households with their eyes closed. Why? Why do you need a high school diploma to come in and help somebody live their best life?
Yeah.
That's insanity. That's ridiculous. And I know that I'm just going to go on this because now you've got me in an area. You know, the department said, okay, cool, we can look at hiring 16 and 17-year-olds, which is awesome. So I happen to have a bunch of teenage kids. So I was like, I'm going to employ all my own kids. And then if it doesn't work out, I just can them, right? I'm like, whatever.
And they might get
It made
unemployment.
so much sense. Yeah, it made so much sense to me. But then we started looking at the criteria, and they can't do personal care, and they can't be left alone with somebody, and there's all this stuff that they can't do. And then it's like, well, why are we even going to employ them then? But that same 16 or 17-year-old can go to a local assisted living facility and do all of the things that we're saying they're not allowed to do. Again, why? Why do you have to be 18 versus 16? If you have a heart for people, you have a heart for people. And if we can nurture that at 16, what kind of world are we looking at then in 20 years?
Yeah.
When we have almost 40-year-olds that have spent the better part of their life helping underprivileged people. Like, we have real opportunity to affect change if we just kind of pull our heads out of the sand and stop putting so many stipulations in place.
All right, quick idea. I think I've always thought this for any top tier politician, they need to live on all three spectrums of society,
100%.
You know, from poverty, middle class, and high society. You need to be able to see all three. I almost believe we should do the same thing for this field. I am a huge proponent of getting kids in high school ages and stuff. I'm a high school dropout myself. If it was one thing that I wish I did, I wish I would have dropped out a year prior. I did it my junior year. I should have did it my sophomore year. But I learned most of what I needed during that time. I knew how to cook. I knew how to clean. I knew how to show empathy. I knew how to catch the bus, here and fro, just so I could get to work. I knew time management. So everything that really mattered, I was learning during that time.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be too much of a stretch if we made that like a mandatory thing after high school? Like, yeah, you have to go service someone with a disability or some type of need for 2 years before you go anywhere else, even TikTok or whatever.
Right. Any human services field. I love that idea. And, my kids have grown up in this field. Excuse me. So it always warmed my heart when I would go to parent-teacher conferences in elementary school or middle school and now high school with them. And they'd say, whenever they have a free period, they always ask to go to the MH class. I know it's not PC. I'm not the one. I'm just quoting.
Gotcha.
They always ask to go to the MH class to just help her hang out or whatever. And my mama heart would always just swell. And I have all girls except one boy. And, we've always been really heavy in sports. And I always had this idea that my son was going to be this big jock kid. And he's not a jock. I mean, he plays sports, but he's not a jock. But his heart is so big, and my girls' hearts are so big. My oldest daughter worked for our agency for some time, and it always makes me so proud when they don't see a disability. What they do see is somebody mistreating somebody that might have a disability, and they're the first ones to step in and go, no. When their friends throw the R word around, they're like, oh, not here. Not here, not in front of me. And if you get in front of your mama, definitely not, because she'll pop you. So that's really, really special to me. And my coworkers, my friends, because we've worked together for so long, their kids are in very similar situations where they're standing up for, the people around them, and they don't go, oh, there's, somebody with something wrong with them. They're just like, hey, what are you doing? And they know that there is just going to be an immediate connection.
Right.
And, someone that they can immediately put a smile on their face and kind of act most themselves. That's my favorite part, is I get to act most of myself when I'm around the people that we support, because they don't judge me at all. At all. So my kids very much got that, and my friends' kids. So yeah, high schoolers absolutely should have to do some sort of social service.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that would be probably get a lot more empathy out of people, because that's something that I've always talked about on the podcast is, like, with Tony, his uncle had a disability, grew up with that. I didn't have anyone around me that with a disability, so I just was not exposed to it as a child, so I would say that, I'm speaking generally, but most of the people I know don't have any connection to the disabilities field. So coming in, I'm an adult, I'm learning so much about people that, you just take for granted as someone who works in the field all the time. You're just learning how, maybe someone can't talk, but that doesn't matter. You
That
can
doesn't
have
mean
a full
they can't communicate. Yeah.
I've had a full conversation with a man who could not talk at all, and it was awesome. It's just so different to see how people's mind works, and it's always posed as such a negative thing with disability. That's one thing I hate about this whole field in general, is not the field itself, but the way people look at it. They automatically are this person's disabled, so therefore something is wrong with them, which isn't wrong, it's just different. And then how they are viewed by the average person in society is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Oh, can we talk about that too?
Oh, please.
Let her rip.
Oh, we talk about community integration, and we got to get people out in the community, in their community, be part of their community. I don't know where this magical community is that we're just supposed to integrate, because we've
ICFs.
done
That's basically what they're saying.
We've done a great job preparing the people that we support to go out into the community. We've done a terrible job, I almost cussed, preparing our community for the people we support. Terrible, absolutely terrible. And whether that's the school system, separating classes, I understand that there are needs that need to be met that can't necessarily in a traditional classroom setting. But, again, we go into system failures. Why don't we have more teachers' aides so that people can be in quote unquote typical learning environments and settings and be supported where they need to be supported? Why do we have kids with ADHD in special classes?
Yeah.
ADHD? Come on. What? That's insane. We're setting them up for failure later in life, because the world, this magical community, isn't going to change itself to accommodate.
Right.
So, we need to support the people in our homes and the people we work with to just function in society as a whole. And we've done that.
Yeah.
But we've done nothing for society to say, hey, quit being douchebags and just love people where they are and for who they are. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything politically, religiously, however, but you can still respect people and still love people and love on people. So
that's a perfect way to put it and look at it. I mean, that is completely true. And everything that you're saying from the beginning of the systems changes to this portion, we would actually be a community if it was done this way versus just a whole bunch of words being said. Because I feel exactly what you mean by the whole community standpoint. There's so many times I've had to talk to neighbors of individuals that I serve, even their family members, because they don't even understand the individual per se. And once there is this understanding or they grasp it, it's like, oh, well, I've been working against this process the entire time. And it's it's uncanny, I think, for us to expect change when we're not really changing.
Right.
You know. So.
Well, and I'm really conflicted a lot about there's big pushes all of the time, and especially I see it now. Like maybe it's just because when I was a kid I wasn't paying attention. I don't know, but there's these big pushes around language, and it's kind of, we were talking about this earlier about and with other guests about how, like, you know, this whole generation, like my generation was one of the first generations to grow up with like computers and stuff. And like there's a lot of political things going on right now that we won't probably talk about, but like
we can. I do love politics.
we raised up on with people around me that spent their whole lives thinking that screaming on the internet is helping people and changing. I'm like, no, there's still people in office doing this and that. And I feel like and I don't know, I get nervous saying this because people take it the wrong way. It's not meant to be a negative thing, but people spend so much time focusing on the language around disabilities or gender and all this stuff, which that's fine. Like if like the way that you talk about things is important because language is real, but like we actually need to do shit too. Like we actually need to take action. Like you can call yourself, or I can have to, like, I'll call you whatever you want to be called. I'm totally fine with it. It doesn't matter to me at all. Person's a person.
Yes.
But we're not focusing on like the systemic issues. We're focusing on like the micro. It's like when your boss or somebody's like, oh, this, I don't like the way this is worded in a paper. Rewrite it. It's like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like we need to focus on what we're talking about, not the like. So I think it does a lot of disservice, and these conversations are important, and people are going to be mad at me for saying this, blah blah blah. But like the actions, the community, getting people in the outside of the DD world to understand what's happening. Education, that's action. Saying that we need to describe things better is not action. That's just bickering. That's semantics. And I don't know. I went on a rant there, but that's like, I see it so much. I see it so often because like,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what words I use if my behavior doesn't match.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
yes, that's what I'm getting at.
You know, it's writing a paper for your professor in college and not formatting it the way that they want. So you get a bad grade. So you reformat and you get a good grade. The content is still the same.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just because it wasn't double spaced changes nothing. So we can pretty up all the words. We can, you know, stop referring to it as community integration and call it whatever else you want. But it doesn't change anything until we do something different. More check boxes are not going to make it better. Correct. More paperwork is not going to make it better. More red tape is not going to make it better. When I entered this field in 2002, the amount of paperwork I had as a DSP was nothing compared to what it is now. I actually got to enjoy my job. I got to spend time with individuals. I got to teach them how to cook. One of the people I supported taught me how to make coffee. I was 18 and had never made coffee before. Yeah, I made coffee and she was like, I'm not drinking this. You're going to learn today. And I learned that day how to make coffee. Right. You know, but I got to be with people and make a difference. And now, granted, I'm on the administration side, so of course I'm pushing more paper. But even the amount of paper that I'm asking my staff to do is so cumbersome. Yeah. We write one check if we supply some payee services. If we write one check, we got to log it in 3 places.
Right.
What? Why? The internet literally exists. Like, you just log on and go, yep, it cleared, and we're done. Yeah. You know? So
straight from the bank.
It's a waste of precious energy and time
and taxpayer dollars. If you don't care about the system for any other reason other than your taxpayer dollars are going into it, you should care.
And I've said this tons of times. I worked at a job in the past where it was all of that. It was the micromanaging, paper, like reformatting emails. I'm like, look at the results of what I've done. The numbers that we've done are through the roof, and you're worried about being in the wrong spot in a paper. Like, you're wasting people's money by telling me to do this when we could actually be taking action. So I may have said that in a not right way, but that's the point I was getting at. It's like we're wasting time and money on the things that don't matter in a change scenario.
Yes.
than we are just doing stuff. Like we need to be going to like legislation and talking to these people and being like, yo, this is messed up. People are dying because you're not willing to pay these people $5 extra an hour. That's the problem.
Which is deserved, you know, just in all actuality. They're kind of topic change, but still on topic. You know, the R word is actually in Three Ninjas.
Which the movie?
The movie Three Ninjas.
That came out like the 90s.
Exactly. I know. So the R was kind of everywhere at that time, to be real. But it was a learning experience for my kids because I didn't realize that they never really heard it.
Yeah.
And we were sitting and I was like, oh, watch this from my past. And I'm enjoying it. I'm having Rocky loves Emily. I'm like, yeah. and they threw that out there. And what does that mean? And because in my household, we use a lot of large vocabulary words. You know, we want our kids to have a very useful language, which is more than just a bunch of, yeah, and whatever people say these days.
Grunting.
Yeah.
I teach him all the other words.
Yeah, he teaches them the bad stuff. Good to have a bad uncle around.
All of the words.
But, you know, so with them not knowing and not understanding me telling them and showing them and giving it kind of a introduction, almost like the N-word, you know, basically on how I said it to them. But they looked at me confused, like, dude, after we're done hearing this, we're probably never going to use it because it just doesn't even sound like a cool word. So I think that we're making change as time progresses. You know, it just has to stay consistent. We can't start taking the word that we are using now and all of a sudden, you know what, that's a bad one too. We can't even say intellectual delay. We're just going to have to say intellectually different. You know, so
no, everything
like
can be derogatory if you want to make it derogatory. Like we give words power, honestly. Otherwise, they're just words.
True.
And our reaction lots of times is what gives them the power or not. Or
lack thereof.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. Sorry. I think I just had a stroke. But certainly, I think as we change and as language changes and we know when something is hurtful, then that's when we instill change in our kids. And most of my kids' friends, that's not a word that they generally would use or hear, but their parents who grew up in the 80s and 90s, that was just a very prevalent word. So then they hear it from their parents. I can't tell you how many times I sit on the ball field and hear a parent just throw it out. I'm just, really? We're in 2022. Why are we... like, you don't mean that. Use a word you mean.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've had this conversation too with people recently. Like when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, I didn't know that was offensive because, like you said, it was everywhere. It was just like when you're on the playground, you would just say that, and it was like it was derogatory. It was meant to be a negative thing, but like we just said it.
But I grew up in the DD field, and people with DD were using it. Like and still do to this day. I have clients that will say and roll right off their back. What you gonna do?
But there used to be like institutions named like with that.
There was most of the county boards was County Board of Mental Retardation.
Yes.
And it is what it is.
Yeah, but that's like that's like different than the point I was trying to get at earlier. I'm trying to clarify that so people don't take it the wrong way. Like, he's gonna get
You're really worried about me like getting canceled.
Get them, Paul. Get them, people.
I can say something way more messed up and take the attention off if you like.
Well, I'm interested in hearing it.
No, you're not. I
you
promise.
Get canceled this time.
No, you're not.
Well, tell me this, because you and I are kind of peers in the same, and it sounds like we're professionally in the same around the same time as well. Where do you see where are you taking this company? Like, what's the next steps? Like, do you want to be a large and in charge group? Okay, so you stay in local, like you said, you committed to that. What about mentorship? Are there other agencies that are of up and comers and stuff that you are trying to?
Licking County has changed a ton. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a huge growth in providers coming to our area, and some of them have really great systems. And I was like, how are you doing that? And, so I think my biggest weakness is that I've been with the same company for so long. So I'm just kind of really comfortable. And yes, I want to grow and offer more opportunities for our staff and do great things. But I kind of am stuck right now in this DSP crisis because I just feel like I'm treading water. So I have lofty dreams and ideas, but I don't know how to get there right now. And I'm hoping that things change and we get back to a place where we're comfortable with staffing and can really help people meet their potential. Because a lot of days right now, I think we're just trying to keep people alive and just trying to survive the day ourselves. And not just in this industry. I think the last 2 years have really just killed all of our spirits.
Life,
it's been rough. So as we kind of just get rejuvenated and feel like we can move forward and move on bigger, better, all the way around, I'm hoping to get kind of that fire back to figure out how to get where I want to go. A personal dream for me would really just be advocating on behalf of individuals, really literally meeting with individuals in their homes all across the state and taking that information back to the department and just saying, look, I don't work for this company. I don't work for you. I don't have a vested interest. This is really just what I want to do. And here's how you guys are failing the people that you're trying to support the best. And here's where we can do better and be better. Because we're not there.
Yeah. But that's a beautiful dream to have. I mean, that sounds awesome. I mean, that would definitely be something in my bucket list of job opportunities. I mean, because like you said, there's not going to be an argument because what I'm going to give to you is facts. This is what I see, and I have no quarrel about it. I like it.
Yeah, and it's, I think that's where a lot of people get kind of confused because I didn't realize until I was probably within the last 5 to 10 years how much doesn't happen unless you get involved politically, and it's uncomfortable to have to go and talk to a senator or legislator or something.
Even sometimes the city councilman.
Yeah, even just starting at your local level, it's uncomfortable because they're high profile, powerful people and that run the country and things like that. But at the same time, one of the things that struck me the most when I was a little bit younger, I went to a conference and just happened to sit down next to this guy in a suit. We're eating lunch and there's nobody in the room. So I'm gonna go sit down with this guy and talk to him. He was a state senator for New Hampshire or something. And I was just oh, and I was dude, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm just treading water. Like you said, just yelling into the abyss and nothing's happening. He's go talk to these people, get involved, do something. Don't just yell and scream. He's you see all those protesters and stuff? He's we don't care about that. He's just go schedule a meeting, go to their open offices, email them, call them. He's they want your vote more than anything. He's that's all we care about is getting reelected, basically. He's if there's enough people going there and saying hey, this needs to change, they're going to do that because they want the vote. They're political and moral has nothing to do with it. They do not give a crap about that. Yeah. They want to be voted in again. So that's what some of the end goal is with this podcast. I mean, it seems hypocritical saying don't yell into the internet, and that's pretty much what we're doing with a podcast. But
we really are, right?
But the end goal is to try and get people excited and change opinion. And if we have to go ourselves and be hey, here's 200 people we talked to saying the same damn thing. Somebody listen, please.
Right.
Yeah.
that's the end goal. I know that's a lofty goal, but like that's the route you have to take to make change. You can't just be upset on the internet.
Yeah, we're really lucky in Licking County too. Our provider support team, and I don't know that every county even has a provider support team, but they do sit down with just providers monthly. We have just a provider meeting.
Oh, God.
And we can say whatever we want. It goes off the rails most of the time.
I love that.
But we can, Brandy's taking a picture and it distracted me. Speaking of provider support, she's gone now. But they really do hear us, whether it's saying, hey, so-and-so did a great job, and they get an honorable mention in the newsletter, or hey, we really got to do better as a county on this. And they hear us, and not only do they then take it to our superintendent, but they are well connected politically and at the state level. And so they really do advocate for providers here in this county, which ultimately then supports the individuals that our county is serving, because happy providers gets happy individuals, and happier staff, I hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So you said you've listened to the show before and you've taken some notes, so you have to know what's coming next.
Rapid fire!
Don't look so excited.
As most people know, rapid fire is a part of the show in which I ask 3 questions. They're all formed in a what would you do scenario. The quicker you answer, the funner it is, I guess.
Well, here's where I get fired.
No, you're gonna do great, I think. Hopefully. We'll see. All right. Would you rather have your fingers and toes swapped or your legs and arms swapped?
Oh, fingers and toes all day. Yeah.
That image is so strange.
It is, yes.
You're gonna be wearing like a size 15 shoe.
Yes, that's okay.
All right. Would you rather lose your ability to see color or lose your sense of taste?
Oh, I'm a big girl. Color gone all day. I love food.
All right. Lastly, man, shout out to my son Lincoln for this. This was just sad. But he said, would you rather daily relive the single worst moment of your life or forget all your happy memories?
Oh, what kind of kid are you raising?
A monster.
Yeah. I'll repeat that. Would you rather relive a single worst moment of your life or forget all your happy memories? I was even stunned by this one.
Okay, I'm probably going to go lose my happy memories because I'm hoping there's a caveat that I can make new ones.
New ones? Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
The only reason I would have said relive my single worst day is if I could change it. So if it was like
this isn't Groundhog Day.
Well, exactly. And I'm about to get real morbid. My single worst day is my birthday, 2017, when my mom died. That is a horrible, horrible experience. Yeah. Something that I'm still dealing with today. Yeah. Thank you to my therapist for all she helps me accomplish.
Thank you to all the therapists out there.
All the therapy.
Pretty sure we keep that industry
afloat. But there's no way I would have been able to save her. So maybe just get rid of those memories and bring new ones.
Yeah, my worst day also is around death. So I don't want to relive that.
Yeah, it's not a good thing to relive. Yeah.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Right?
Something's
you
wrong
need
with
Jesus.
Well, this has been a great conversation.
It has.
Thank you for coming in here and talking with us. It's been a blast, and we love having people with strong opinions. We don't want people with weak opinions. We want strong opinions.
At this point in time, we've had enough weak opinions. We've had enough people telling us what to do. And I sat in with a group of agencies and ADS companies and stuff in Northwest Ohio, and one of the turnouts was that we need to be allowed to be professionals again. Mm-hmm. There's too many times that we're getting red tape over us, and we're the ones day in and day out. I don't want to say putting up with stuff, but having to be the safeguard. you know, versus actually being safeguarded so we can do our job. But thank you. And voices like yours need to be heard in places like this, and we'll continue to promote. And, you know, I just hope your agency continues to flourish and more people follow your kind of footsteps.
Well, thank you. I hope you guys have enjoyed your time in Licking County. You still have tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Oh, it'll be so much fun. Good. And you guys are doing good work. I appreciate the invite today.
Thank you.